soon as I get ready to come here, the train stopped and went forward and back.
Jesus, just to rub it
Then,
in.
then when it cleared.
Special District Board of Directors meeting for February 17th. The time is 5:38 p.m. Madam Clerk?
Chairperson Julia Botel.
Here.
Chair Pro Tem Douglas Lawson.
Here.
Board Member Trodrick McCoy.
Here.
Board Member Shama Miller Anderson.
Present.
Board Member Shirley Lanier. Ex officio Board Member Mayor Ronnie Felder. City Manager Jonathan Evans.
Present.
Interim Executive Director Jonathan Batista.
Here.
District Clerk Claudia Anthony is present. District Attorney Don Wynn.
Here.
District Finance Director Randy Sherman.
Thank you. We'll have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Miller Anderson. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any person who would like to speak on an agenda item, please complete a green public comment card located at the front desk and give it to the staff prior to the item being taken up by the Board of Directors for discussion. Members of the public will be given a total of 3 minutes to speak on all items listed on the consent agenda and 3 minutes to speak on each regular agenda item. The time limit for public comment may be reduced by a vote of the Board of Directors based on the voluminous nature of public comment cards. In no event will anyone be allowed to submit a comment card or speak to an agenda item after the resolution is read or item considered. Do we have any additions, deletions, or substitutions from the Manager, Executive Director, or Board of Directors?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have Resolution 6-21 UD. If I can have the City Clerk read that resolution title into the record.
Item number 4 is added onto the regular agenda. And
It's listed as item number 1 on the online.
okay. Looking at like. It's resolution number 66-21 UD, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Riviera Beach, Utility Special District, Palm Beach County, Florida, approving the emergency repairs by Global Tech Inc., previously approved for design build services, authorizing the city manager to approve change orders up to 10%, and authorizing the Utility Special District's finance director to make payment from project number 18154 in an amount not to exceed $222,028.69 and provide an effective date. And that item is added.
Item number 4.
It's going to fall up under the regular agenda and not the consent agenda. Okay.
Thank you. Any other additions, deletions, or substitutions?
Not from staff, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any disclosures by Board of Directors? Thank you.
Madam Chair, so let's talk about number 4.
Okay.
Is this not the same item that we had seen before that came before us that was referenced that it had a scrivener's error?
No.
I'm sorry, is that, you said no?
No. I think you're referring to the lift station item.
He has no microphone.
Could you speak into the mic a little bit?
Sorry about that.
Mr. Batista?
For the Scribner errors item, I believe that dealt with the lift stations, but not the high service pumps.
But Global Tech is the same firm, correct?
No, for that one, that was EAC.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you. Would someone care to make a motion to adopt the agenda?
Madam Chair. So number 4 is just fixing the item that's already, because it's already listed as number 4 on the agenda. Is it changing? We're not adding it.
I think it was not on the agenda as it was posted earlier in the day.
But it's on this one.
It's what we received. Oh, it's on the one you have there, but yeah, it wasn't on the one that I pulled down earlier.
Okay,
Right.
okay,
So it's number 4.
okay.
Would someone care to make a motion and a second to adopt the agenda?
So move.
You're ready. Thank you. The agenda is moved and seconded. Madam Clerk?
Board Member McCoy.
Yes.
Board Member Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Pro Tem Lawson.
Yes.
Chair Botel.
Yes,
Unanimous vote.
Thank you. All matters listed under this item are considered to be routine, and action will be taken by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council person so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Could we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move
So
to
moved.
approve.
Second.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment on the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, members of the board, there are no public comment cards on the consent agenda. The acceptance of public comment cards on the consent agenda is now closed.
Thank you. The motion is to approve the consent agenda. As your name is called, please answer yes or no.
Board Member Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member McCoy,
Yes.
Pro Tem Lawson,
Yes.
Chair Botel.
Yes. Item number, do we have awards and presentations?
Water quality improvement update. Madam Chair, members of the board, we do not have public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment card on this item is now closed.
Thank you. Will this presentation be made by Mr. Batista?
Yes, and also two consultants, Nigel Grace and Andrea Holtz.
Thank you.
I can't really hear. I can't really hear.
Could you, Mr. Batista, if you don't mind, could you just lower that when you're speaking? Thank you. Appreciate that. Let the record show that Commissioner Lanier has joined us. Welcome.
So before I begin this presentation, I want to deliver a quick message. I finally understand what it means to be a public servant. When I look at the Utility Special District, I see an empty shell that comes to life as people answer the phones, pay the bills, operate the treatment plant, and respond to issues throughout the city. If there were no staff to serve the customers, there would be no utility. And if there were no customers, a utility would have no purpose. More than anything, I want all of my customers to know that you are not forgotten and that the Calvary is coming. To the customers who experience water main breaks, have no water, and wonder whether utility staff will go home at 5 p.m., you will not be abandoned. To the customers who are angry with the water they use to wash their cars and have their grandchildren play with, you will not be ignored. To the customers who have to shut down their facilities due to the inconsistent water quality and lift station issues, my utility will contribute to your economic prosperity rather than your downfall. Just as the council members serve the residents of Riviera Beach, we serve the customers. The utility I have adopted struggles to provide excellent service because it has been through too many foster homes, neglected for too many years, and although I'm not to blame for the utility's past, I am currently the responsible guardian of its future. For the sake of my utility, my staff, and my customers, I can and must do better than my predecessors. Any who dare throw careless insults at my utility in my presence will face the calm ferocity of a father protecting his son. In my opinion, the utility has the potential to be a great underdog story where we must surmount impossible odds to redeem ourselves. There was a time when the utility was flying high and produced water people were happy with. Now we find ourselves in a plane at night, and due to the turbulence of a storm and equipment failures, crash landing in the ocean. We awake to find ourselves stranded on an island with a collection of FedEx boxes. This is how the movie Castaway started, but not how it ended. Once a FedEx engineer, the man played by Tom Hanks mastered the art of spearfishing, survived 4 years on the island, and made his way back to civilization. The next time any of you see the symbol of the utility, I want you to think of your favorite underdog movie and what made it inspiring. The island is not the end for my fellow survivors, but the beginning of a story worth listening to. This is the State of the Utility, Part 1. Now for the agenda, we'll be covering the USD overview and the challenges that have been faced. We'll also be covering the water system in detail, particularly the water treatment plant and the actions taken. I believe that 2021 will be the year of noticeable improvements based on what has been done and what already is being done. There's also other ongoing utility system priorities covering the entire utility, but we're not going to focus too much on that in this presentation. That'll be for a follow-up. We'll have some concluding remarks, and then there'll be a separate presentation on the grant program. So first of all, some key stats when it comes to the USD. Formed in 2004, the 1958 population was 13,000 back then. Our service area population now is about 42,000 people. Our service area includes the municipal boundaries of the city, along with Gramercy Park, Palm Beach Shores, and Mangonia Park. In terms of our staff, we have 57 positions over 5 divisions, and currently we have 11 vacancies. Our annual operating budget is $29.5 million for this fiscal year. When it comes to the staff organization, this is just a basic look at the org chart. We recently had 4 new hires, including the compliance and safety officer. And one of the main challenges at this utility special district is the high turnover. We've had staff across multiple divisions, especially the water plant, come and go at an alarming pace. At one point, the water plant had almost half the positions vacant. Another important point is the director turnover. After Ed Sierra was here for about 8 years, from 2001, 2009, we started to see a pattern of director turnover increasing from Gloria Shuttlesworth in 2009 and 10. Luar Gemma was here for about 6 years between 2010, 2016, and then turnover increased rapidly after that, where Troy Perry was here for about a year, Willie Horton for about a year and a half, Layden for a few months, and then so on. In this next figure, the bottom purple line shows little dots that represent when new acting directors came on board. So you have 2010 and 2016 was Luar Gemma, and then you can see the dots increasing in frequency. And I have that shown with the blue line above it, which shows how the utility system capital improvement plan spending has occurred. So in the years of our Gemma, between 2010 and 2016, there was about $1 to $6 million spent every year. And then following that, we had, in 2016, over $30 million was provided in bond money, and ironically, spending decreased after that. Then as the years progressed, spending fluctuated wildly, and now we're in a new era where we have to catch up, where all the previous spending, which was inadequate to maintain the utility, now needs to be jump-started in the future years. So not much has changed over the past several decades, but that is about to rapidly change. In the 2 photos shown, you have the plant in the 1970s. The only real difference between the 1970s photo and the 2019 photo is there was a water tower, there was a sludge thickener in use, and a different maintenance building. But for the most part, the treatment processes has remained the same. And now we're in the process of having the most largest capital improvement upgrade to the water plant since 1979. So for the benefit of the general public, I created with my team a little overview of the utility, and the message here is what comes in must comes out. The little blue lines are the pipes, and from the wells to the water treatment plant, I think, in my opinion, the water treatment plant represents the heart of everything. It's what pumps water from the plant itself to the customers throughout the entire system. And it also acts like a liver, where it regulates chemicals and removes contaminants. But instead of talking about blood, we're talking about water here. And of course, customers at the center of all this. If there were no customers to deliver to, then there would be no need for utility. And once the water gets to the customers, they use it and then send wastewater to our sewer mains, which are shown by the green lines, make it to the lift stations, which pump the wastewater all the way to our ECR plant, which is shared by multiple entities. So it may be a little difficult to see from here, but at the heart of the whole distribution system is the water treatment plant. The blue lines represent all the water mains throughout the city, and the black line surrounding everything in the aerial is the city boundaries. So essentially, Without the water plant, there would be no way to pump water to all these water mains surrounding the treatment plant. Now, when it comes to the treatment plant, most of the treatment processes are on the right side of this figure, and we have a massive area just dedicated to collecting the sludge in this system. Because it's a lime softening system, there's a great deal of lime that's used and also lime sludge that's produced. So now for this next part, I'm going to have Nigel Grace with Brown and Caldwell go into the details of our treatment processes.
My mask always seems to get stuck behind my glasses arm. Good evening, everyone. It's certainly a pleasure being here. As Mr. Batista just mentioned, you have a treatment plant that's several decades old, with the last major improvements being done in the 1970s. The existing facility is every bit the same as what you had 40, 50, 60 years ago, with only exception of time and the impact of aging. And we've had, discussions where we've overviewed the plant and identified some of the major challenges within the existing plant. And those challenges continue to persist. The city is doing a lot of things to update the facility. And what we highlight here are, for each of the major processes illustrated here, the various types of challenges that exist and how those challenges come to bear to impact water quality. What I'm gonna do over the next few minutes is really step you through all of these building blocks of the plant and focus less on the challenges, because I think we're all aware of the issues the facility is facing, but more focus on what's being done about it, what work is in progress or about to get going. Starting with the well field, you've seen the photos in the past. 2 years ago, this city, I believe, had only 7 of 27 wells in operation. Today, you have 23. Significant progress has been made, but there's more work to be done. As you peel back the onion, the layer of the onions, you find additional issues. These wells are going to be serving your future water plant. They're decades old and they need significant rehabilitation. So the city has retained a consultant to do a deep dive in these wells, do a condition assessment, develop a plan for your well field that would be implemented, that would not only serve the current needs of the existing water plant, but would also position your well field to supply your future needs. Then the next step in the journey of the water through the plant, as it arrives at the plant, it goes through this air stripping system. This is what was deployed a couple of decades ago to address some of the groundwater contamination in the area. It's been in service continuously since then. There's some operational maintenance challenges that we're currently in the process of looking at to identify some improvement needs within that particular process. The next major process along the journey of the water is a lime softening unit. And this treatment plant does 2 basic things. It removes hardness from the water. That's the primary purpose for which it was built decades ago. The secondary purpose of this treatment plant is disinfection. This photo here represents your newly renovated lime softening treatment process. It took almost a year. That process is in good shape, but you have 2 additional softening processes, and both of those softening units will ultimately need to be rehabilitated. Prior to doing that, they have to be taken down one at a time, drained, cleaned, inspected to determine the specific scope of what needs to be done. Then ultimately that will be assigned to one of your 2 design-build contractors to implement. So that work is in progress. I know the city is developing a proposal from one of your design-build consultants to facilitate the draining and cleaning of that. The lime slaking process is a key process that makes the previous lime softening units that we looked at work. This provides and applies the lime in a measured, controlled manner that allows for the removalness of hardness. The only problem is that the existing system does not have any ability to measure and meter the lime in a controlled manner. and one of the two existing units has been out of service for many years. So the city is in a process and is currently has under contract with Cardinal to not only design but construct two new lamp feed systems that look somewhat similar to what we're looking at in this photo. So this new system, and you're going to start seeing construction within the next month or two begin on this, will be able to handle the entire softening process for the entire treatment plant. So this is a major step in the right direction. Your filtration system similarly has significant needs. We knew that it had needs from a year or so. We recently concluded an evaluation that took a deep dive into these filters. And there's some significant, let's say, issues that need to be addressed. The city is currently working with one of its design build contractors, Global Tech, to put together a proposal that will make all the necessary repairs to your 16 filtration units. And this is a critical process because this is the last barrier that prevents particulates from entering the system. So it's important that this be in pretty good shape. Then the next step along the journey of the water is your transfer and high service pumps. Your high service pumps, as Mr. Batista indicated, is what delivers the water from the plant into the distribution system. The transfer pumps serve the purpose of basically moving the water across the street to the storage tank or backwashing the filters. Your high service pumps have significant issues. In fact, only 2 of your 7 pumps are currently in service, which is really putting the plant perilously close to the very edge. If you lose another pump, that would certainly compromise the ability to meet your water demand. So I think that's the authorization you just approved, an emergency authorization to have a contractor restore some reliability and function to that particular process. You transfer pumps in better shape, but there are also issues that limit the ability of those pumps and the system that is connected to effectively clean the filters. So another proposal is being developed for a contractor to remedy those deficiencies. Again, may seem like a steady stream of upgrades, but it took decades for the plant to get to this point. And these are must-do items that if you do have a failure, then it basically shuts the door on your treatment facility. So these are high-priority initiatives that need to occur. Your chemical feed systems, you have a diverse array of chemical feed systems within the plant. Probably the most important one of which is your chlorination system. A number of your chemical feed systems, all the chemical feed systems suffer the same thing, inability to effectively control and meter the chemicals. That inability translates into also an inability to maintain consistency of treatment and consistency of quality. Currently under contract with both Cardinal and Global Tech is a fairly comprehensive array of upgrades that will replace all the chemical feed systems and additionally add the capability of using carbon dioxide to condition the water and help target a more optimum finished water quality. All of these projects have already been well underway. The designs are essentially completed. They're in the final stages of permitting. And you're going to have a whole wave of construction that's going to start soon within the next month or two that will peak over the summer and taper off towards the end of the year and early part of 2022. So next you have the North Chemical Building. We all have the site of that building every time we're coming into Blue Heron. That building today still houses 3 important functions. Electrical gear that's used to operate the plant, your chlorine system, as well as some controls. Both of the design build contractors are going to be installing replacement systems in different parts of the plant. Once that work is completed and commissioned, then the city will be able to decommission the elements within that particular structure and eliminate any operational use of that particular building. The building itself, as most of you I'm sure have seen, the structural compromise has been progressively getting worse. The city recently authorized a contractor to take some emergency repairs to essentially wrap the upper portion of the building in a steel mesh, a wire mesh that would secure the area around the building from any falling debris. Once all the current functional elements within that building are removed, the city's intent is to literally partially demolish the compromised portion of the building and then just abandon it in place until such time to do a more comprehensive abandonment of the plant. So that pretty much summarizes the current active work that's under contract or soon to be placed under contract to really bring the existing plant on par with expectation. The existing contracts address much of the phase one work that's again nearing construction. Phase two will include some of the things I mentioned, like the filter improvements, the airstrip improvements, etc. And of course, you have the emergency authorizations, for which you just authorized one of them, namely the high service pump upgrade. So that's really kind of the portfolio of work that's either currently underway or pending at the existing water plant. Jonathan?
And just to add a few points to what Nigel's saying, a lot of this work deals with the consent order that needs to be addressed by September of this year, where it's almost like we're hitting two birds with one stone, where we're doing improvements that'll help ourselves and then also make the regulatory bodies content with the progress that we're making. Another item that we're getting ready to start very soon is unidirectional flushing, which is essentially cleaning out over 100 miles of water mains that haven't been cleaned out for a long period of time. Now, when it comes to 2021, I think by the end of this year, we'll be delivering water in a way that hasn't been delivered before. First off, we'll be able to automate functions that are all manual. My operators have to literally turn the valves, manually adjust the chemicals, and for anybody who's been in a well-functioning treatment plant, normally you'll find an operator sitting in a room, pressing the buttons for things to turn on and off, close or open. But here we got people running around and trying to keep things running to the best of their ability with the fact that we're understaffed at the water plant. All of that's changing. We're hiring operators. We're transitioning the leadership that's getting ready to retire, but there's still a lot to be done. With these improvements, we'll be able to improve the safety and reliability, as well as the performance of these systems, improve our way of handling compliance measures, add new treatment capabilities, like with the new carbon dioxide system, which doesn't even exist at this plant today. We'll be able to improve water quality because now we'll have a means of controlling what happens within our system. And then these benefits will help buy us time and bridge until we can get to the new water treatment plant. So we'll be able to deliver what our customers want sooner rather than later. Now, in terms of the water quality benefits, the lime softening technology has its limits, but we should be able to see improvements in things like color and hardness. When it comes to the stability of our disinfectant, one of the main processes at the treatment plant, we shouldn't need to flush as often and will likely have higher chlorine residuals. We're also going to expect incidences of cloudy water complaints over time because we plan on improving filtration and then also having the unidirectional flushing that was mentioned before. It's almost like when you go to the dentist, you get your teeth flossed and all of that. Well, that's sort of what we're doing here, where we're trying to clean out everything so we're starting off fresh. Active construction will commence early spring. We're expecting construction to begin this month and next month on the main chemical feed systems, and then peak during the summertime. And within the time frame of between July and September, we should start realizing the benefits of all of this construction work. However, given the age and condition of the water treatment plant, and we actually already face some of these unanticipated conditions, but we're going to need to be able to do quick action as we uncover problems that either haven't been addressed or weren't known about. There's going to have to be extensive coordination, progress, and oversight over the next 15 months. Now, when it comes to the rest of the utility system, there's a lot of work happening. First one being the C-17 and M Canal crossings. Those are critical force main crossings that affect our neighbors like West Palm Beach. The design is complete, and that's to essentially mitigate the vulnerabilities that are there now. We're also in the process of designing the intracoastal water and force main crossings that will benefit Singer Island, and that's also to mitigate a force main and water main that doesn't have enough redundancy. We're in the process of doing wastewater pump stations condition assessment, which was approved in the past, and our consultant is underway. We have an inflow and infiltration study underway, which deals with our sewers. When it comes to the high-velocity flush, that's the unidirectional flush that was mentioned. When it comes to this new water treatment plant, the water use permitting is underway. Recently, the projected water demand was completed, so we have a decent idea of what we need going into the future, at least 10 years from now. In terms of key staff recruitment, I think this is one of the most important points, where, as I mentioned before, we have 57 positions and 11 vacancies. That's a significant portion of my utility. And we're in the process of hiring a new superintendent, as our current superintendent plans on retiring, a new operator, as he is ready to retire soon, to fill the water plant operator positions, instrumentation techs, and also a collection superintendent. I think an important point there is that it's not enough for one person to do the work of USD. It's going to take a strong leadership team and a group of people who are dedicated to making the place better. For the last item, grant funding initiatives, we're improving how we achieve grants. We already had multiple grants approved in the recent past, and we'll go into more details in a separate presentation. So these just show quickly pictures of the force main crossings, and also when it comes to the water main and redundant force main crossings. So we're making progress there, and we'll have further details in a workshop. In terms of the new water treatment plant, we're not going to get into too much detail here, but the way I see it is that we have an existing treatment plant, which is the heart of our operations, and we're doing all these surgeries that are required to keep the heart running. And ultimately, the goal is to transplant from where we are now to a new location with a new water treatment plant. So rather than try to keep an old heart that's barely functioning alive, we want to get to a brand new heart that can keep the body running. So we're in the process of water supply permitting, and the next step is to do facilities planning to give the city an idea of what this place would look like. So when it comes to the utility special district, I believe that there's an alignment of direction. I feel as though the council members, the customers, the utility special district, city management, we're all on the same page on we want to improve, we want to get better, and now it's just a matter of getting it done. I think of it as the beginning of a new era, the USD Renaissance, where we're at the very start of this underdog story, and there's so much to be done, and I believe the staff that I have now are survivors. They've been through turnover, they've been through equipment that's failed, they've worked harder for less pay. And because they've survived, they're not like your typical people. So now it's a matter of investing in them and showing that we care and taking them to a place where they're appreciated. And I think everything that's happening is beginning to show, not just in my department, but across the city, where I'm getting people from other departments interested in coming to my utility. And I think that's a sign that we're on the right path. So before we move on to the next presentation about grants, I'd like to open the floor to questions.
Do we have any questions from commissioners?
Madam Chair?
You're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you for the proposal, Mr. Baptiste, or for the presentation, actually. It was very passionate, and it shows that we're committed to the water. Can you give us a realistic time frame if we approved a brand-new water plant tonight? What would be an expeditious time of getting something open, and what is our longest term in getting something open if we approved a plant tonight?
Well, if the plant was approved today, I believe it's reasonable to say that we can get it built within 5 years, and that's not just the plant. We're talking about Florida wells, we're talking about the changes to the transmission system, so that there's a whole package that goes with the water treatment plant. And so when you go from design to the construction of such a large project, I think a 5-year time frame is doable if everything happens according to plan.
And then the capital improvements that you outlined tonight, that would be peaking in 2022, are those already included in our budget, capital improvement budget?
Yes.
So we've already budgeted for all the items. Is there any way to expedite that process of getting the repairs and getting things done with our plans?
Well, at this point, I think the continued support of the council members will definitely be helpful, where there's going to be an item coming up later that deals with the high service pumps. So beyond that, there's going to be a lot of work that's coming that is being developed, like with the filters. And as more information is available, I'll do my best to present the best option for the board to consider.
Okay, and the discoloration that we discussed, that's something that's going to slowly change with the capital improvements that we're focused on. Because I think one of our biggest concerns is healthy water, but our residents notice the discoloration of our water. And that's a major issue that they have. Is that something that we can truly have addressed within this process, or is that not going to see an actual change till the new plant's installed?
With the current lime softening technology, it can reduce the color, but there's a limit to how much you can reduce it by because it wasn't developed to do so. So I think once we have an automated system of better chemical feed systems as part of all this construction, we'll see a noticeable improvement. But it's really going to take a new process like membrane filtration to take it to the next level, like with bottled water and the clarity dealing with that.
Okay. And Madam Chair, question for Mr. Evans.
You're recognized.
Mr. Evans, would you be able to provide us a presentation by the next meeting in reference to cost of a brand new plant and expected or ideas of how we can actually pay for these plants? Something that can show the different options, the different type of plants that are available, and then ability to actually pay for the different type of plants that we bring to the table.
Madam Chair, if I may, with regards to the request by Board Member Lawson, staff can certainly bring that forward. Also, Ms. Jacobs and I have had some conversations and discussions about a model that can conceivably cut the time frame that Mr. Batista just shared in half. So we would like to bring some options to the board so we can be able to spool up a presentation to share with the board how we can look to deliver a plant based on your traditional construction methods or some of the other things that we're seeing other municipalities do throughout the state and throughout the country.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Wilson?
Yes, Madam Chair. And Mr. Evans, will that presentation be available for our next utility district meeting?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair?
You're recognized, Ms. Miller-Anderson.
I don't have a question, but I did just want to thank you all for bringing this forth. As we all know, during election time, we do have, a lot of concerns that come out, and the water quality has been one of them. I was around during the time in which in 2016, when we had such a uproar with what was going on, and a lot of that was because of the information not being shared and not communicated to the board, and not being proactive in getting things done. And as you mentioned, a lot of this stuff has occurred over decades. And so I appreciate us being the board that's going to fix it, but I hope the community understands that the water did not get this way overnight. This has been for 20, 30 years of neglect, and this is why we're in the situation we're in. And so we're doing as much as we can. There was a lot of times where money was just being sat on and no improvements were being done, and I'm glad you pointed that out. And so, when we're out there, we just want to make sure that we're giving the information to the people, and the people ask the questions if they still have concerns, and because people kind of excite people over non-truths. And so I'm very thankful that you laid this out the way that you did, because it really needs to be broken down to the community to understand how we got to where we are. And so I thank you for that, and I look forward to being able to correct some of these things that have gone not taken care of for many, many years. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mr. McCoy, recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Batista, I know this question is going to predate you, but perhaps we can figure out the answer. But one of the very initial slides you showed demonstrated the cost over the years. Do you have one that shows the rates that was done that commensurates, or even, I guess, would be simultaneous, right? That would be simultaneous to, I guess, the rates for the end users, for the customers, that would also mirror in that same fashion to measure exactly the effectiveness and efficiency of us implementing rate increases, and how does that work as far as the capital plan and what capital projects was done. So in that same 12-year time period, would you be able to provide the water rates?
I think I could work with finance to come up with that.
All right, thank you. And also, can you also include in there when they were adopted?
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? I want to thank you, Mr. Batista. Your passion for your work is clear, and I trust that you're going to get this done. And along with Commissioner Miller-Anderson, I want to congratulate you for being very open and honest and transparent about the issues that we have, and your real eagerness to solve them. So thank you so much. I do have one quick question, and you might be covering this in an upcoming workshop, but I have been asked by people on the island, the intercoastal crossing that we're planning, will that be buried? How will, the one that's there now is above the bottom of the water and is at risk if anybody comes along with some dragging anchor or something. How will we know that that's going to be protected?
To my understanding, the new intracoastal mains will be below the surface of the sand, you could say.
Yeah. I said that to somebody, but I just want to check that I didn't say anything untrue. Thanks very much. I feel safer already. Any other questions? Thank you again, Mr. Batista. We appreciate it.
No problem. So now we're just going to go quickly into a grant presentation, and then that'll be the end of it.
She's got it. The clerk's got it. The clerk's got it up.
She's got it.
For this presentation, we have Andrea Holtz with Holtz Consulting to provide a brief overview of our grant program at Riviera Beach Utility Special District.
Good evening. Nice to see you all. I've not been here before, so this is a pleasure. Riviera Beach Utility Special District Grant Programs Activity. I want to just start with, I've been working with the utility for the last couple years, and similar to what Mr. Batista said, we have started moving the district forward with actually seeking and obtaining grants. And it's not something that happens overnight, and it's something that takes a little planning. It also takes a little bit of effort because some of these programs are significant in terms of what you need to do ahead of time. But we have been successful. And I want to talk about two that we're working on right now. The first one is a DEP special appropriation grant. It's actually a grant, but it's a special appropriation that comes out of the legislative process as a grant from DEP. That's $500,000. That's actually going on right now. And that's funding the water treatment plant disinfection system improvements project, one of the ones that Jonathan mentioned. The second one was just recently obtained. I believe it was brought to you guys, brought to the city sometime, just not too long ago. But this is a Florida Department of Economic Opportunity grant, CDBG funded. This money's coming through HUD. This is a $1.9 million grant. This will fund the replacement of the 2 wastewater force mains, the ones that Jonathan mentioned earlier, the M Canal and the C-17 crossing. Fully funds it. This takes this project off your hands in terms of funding it. Other programs that you are currently pursuing, meaning you have submitted the applications and now we're waiting to hear about whether you're going to get the funding. That's FEMA under the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. Again, another program, a different program, another funding source, but still from the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity. And again, we are on a regular basis submitting for state of Florida appropriations for the water plant and other things. FEMA is one of the projects, one of the grant programs rather, that is it's not just simple. First of all, the HMGP money is triggered with a hurricane anywhere in the state, but frequently we have them here, so we often have opportunities that way. The projects can't be submitted unless they're on the Palm Beach County Local Mitigation Strategy Prioritized Project List. It's a mouthful. That's a list that's kept at the county for all municipalities, and it serves as the planning document at a state level that they submit to the feds that basically says this is how these areas are mitigating future damage to their cities. It can do a lot of different things, but from the utility side, we tend to fund continuity of power, redundant systems, hardening of facilities. Those types of projects are the kinds of things. But when you look at it for a city, it can be a lot of different facilities, things that not necessarily just utilities. We do update that list twice a year. The next one's coming up in, I believe, April. Again, this was something that when I started working with the utility district, although the city was a member, they were not active. And if you're not active and participating in those meetings that they hold regularly, you become ineligible to be on their list, and you no longer can participate in FEMA grant funding. So it seems trivial, but it's actually critical important, and it's part of this whole funding process that you have to start with on being on their list. There's other sources of funding, regular sources of funding that also FEMA has, but the ones that we've targeted are the HMGP at this point in time. It's a 3-tiered funding system. Tier 1 is when it hits here. Tier 2 is when there's money left over after Tier 1 and it can go to your area. Tier 3 is what we applied for under the FEMA HMGP funding program. We submitted for standby generators for the emergency lift station operations, and for a larger lift station 47, the emergency generator and automatic transfer switch upgrade. Those both together are about $500,000 and will fund those projects at 75%. FEMA money is always a 75-25 unless you can leverage it with additional funding from other sources. But we did apply for this under Hurricane Michael. That's the good news. The bad news is that as of last September, they had only gotten through about 10% of the applications under Hurricane Michael. So although we're in the pile is big. I think you will get funding out of this because there was a lot of money and not enough applications, but it just takes a while to get through the process. Rebuild Florida. This was a huge initiative, just came out last year, and we were ready for it. We submitted under this program to DEO 3 grants, three different applications. The program itself is a huge source of funding. Just to give you an idea, $475 million is available in this program for the state of Florida. And in the state of Florida, it's limited to those counties that are have been impacted by significant storms in the past. And on top of that, it is further it's mostly intended to serve communities with high LMI. So the Riviera Beach is poised to get quite a bit of funding under this program, and we went for it pretty hard because we submitted for, the first one is the one I mentioned earlier. We had gone under a different program under DEO and were successful. That made us bold, and so the next time we went for the raw water supply system improvements. We asked for $5.9 million. You currently have $2.26 million budgeted. The project's $8.16. This really positions you because even though it's 100% grant funding, if you can show a match, it makes you even higher. So I'm hopeful for this one. Second one, new water treatment plant. We submitted for it, $53.4 million. And the third one we submitted for, new transmission main improvements. Jonathan spoke about those. You build a new plant, you have to connect it to your existing system, $2.7 million. Those are 100% funded. That means that includes the cost of the plant, as well as the cost of construction services and design services. This estimate at 53.4 and 2.7 and 8.16 though, are a high-level cost estimate. That means that your numbers can err on 30% plus or minus. So these numbers may be the right numbers, they may not be, but we had to get something into them to actually start the process. Even if they only fund the first one this year, there are 2 more cycles of funding for DEO general infrastructure. One this year and one next year. Both of those cycles, one of them is greater than the one they just put out at 175, and the other one's at 150 million. So I can't express enough how much this is an important program for the utility, for the city, and there are other things that we can do with it, but this is where the utility is right now and what they've done thus far. Let's see what else. The other thing that we work on an annual basis is the state of Florida appropriations. The one that we are working under now is the disinfection improvements of the water treatment plant. That's active, projects underway, and that's $500,000 in funding. And then I believe in 2019, it takes after you submit it, you have to go through the budget cycle, but I believe the funding came in out of the last cycle that we did was for the stormwater. What other grant programs are we looking at? We are looking at alternative water supply for source water projects. That would be, in particular, your new water plant, your new water supply wells, your Floridan wells. That's a perfect water management district project, and we will hit them hard. Water conservation funding for future irrigation improvements. That's not a big dollar, but again, every little bit helps. That can be done, for your plant site, things like that. We have talked to SRF. DEP has a program, drinking water SRF and clean water SRF. Clean water is actually for the sanitary side and reclaim. Drinking water is what we would be looking at for your water side. They have a low interest rate. They will give you some loan forgiveness. There are additional costs associated with these programs. But that definitely should not be off the table for something to look at in the future. If you could maybe leverage a combination of SRF, DEO, HMGP, AWS, and SFWMD, water conservation, and it would give you a significant funding towards what you heard from Mr. Batista as some of those future costs. And then last but not least, they're starting to talk about some of the information, and I'm extremely excited to hear about where you are on some of these design projects, because I believe this stimulus program funding that's going to come out of the COVID relief is going to be for design shovel-ready projects. You have those. You have got projects that are ready to go, you're working towards. Some of these might very well. A lot of times the county tends to push the road projects, but often the road projects involve utilities too. So, either way, I think this is something that's coming down. We're watching for it. Just haven't heard about it just yet. And that's it. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions? I do. To the best of your knowledge, and it seems to be quite broad and deep, Have we missed out on any grant opportunities for the district that we could have obtained?
No, not since I got here.
So it would be false and misleading to claim that we are not getting the grants that we're entitled to.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I don't know, but the 1.9 million that you received for the aerial crossings, there was only a few offered throughout the state. You did extremely well. It's unusual to get a grant that will pay 100% of a cost of a project.
Great.
Matter of fact, it's just not done. The feds are the best at 75-25. That you got 100% funding project for fund all your construction costs on that is huge. And you were in a small group for the whole entire state. On top of that, it gave me the incentive to go even further. So when we submitted the next round of DEO grants, we included the design. You had already paid for the design on the 2 force main replacement projects, and so that money I cannot, unfortunately, get back for you from a grant, but I can on future ones, and they will pay for it. So when we put together the package for the next ones, and any future ones we do, we will include those design dollars. That, to me, would be probably my final grant, because I would have achieved all that I've ever wanted to achieve, which would be a zero cost to you project, not only from the planning part, but all the way through to the construction. And it's doable. If there is something that is not doable, I'm going to tell you. There are certain grant programs I do not recommend because the testing and some of the on the stormwater side, some of those are just too difficult. You open up Pandora's box with them, and I don't recommend them. Some of the coastal grants are that way. I don't always recommend those. But when it comes to these utilities, especially with this DEO funding, it's a great group up there, and I think you guys in particular are poised to do really well. I've been successful with that program. They had a critical facility portion of it, and we were successful at West Palm Beach in getting $5 million to fund rehabbing 3 of their existing fire stations. There's no reason why you guys can't do the same thing in utilities and possibly your city as well. It's there, finally. It hasn't been, but it is there now.
Thank you. Well, it seems to me we owe you a great deal of gratitude for the work that you've done on our behalf. So thank you very much. I'm sure I speak for my
pleasure.
colleagues.
Truly my pleasure. You've got a great group here.
Any other comments? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Resolution number, Madam Chair, the time is 6:35, and public comments are to begin at 6:15, and we do have a public comment card.
Let's hear public comments then. Thank you.
Madam Chair, will you read the statement into the record, please?
I'm searching for it.
Madam Chair, is that something new?
It's on the agenda that the public comments start at 6:15.
We just added that? I don't ever recall having a time, but that's fine.
Please be reminded that rules of decorum during official meetings has been adopted and posted at the entrance. In an effort to preserve order, if any of the rules are not adhered to, the district chair may have any disruptive speaker or attendee removed from the podium, from the meeting, and/or the building if necessary. Please govern yourselves accordingly. Public comments shall begin at 6:15 unless there is no further business of the Board of Directors, which in the event shall begin sooner. In addition, if an item is being considered at 6:15 p.m., then comments from the public shall begin immediately after the item has been concluded. Any person who would like to speak during public comments, please fill out a public comment card located at the front desk and give it to staff before the public comment section is announced. Clerk.
Madam Chair, members of the board, the acceptance of public comment cards at this time is now closed. Glenn Spiritus.
Members of the board, good evening. Glenn Spiritus, Riviera Beach, 5540 North Ocean Drive. City manager, city staff as well, good evening to you as well. Are you interim director or director now?
Please confine yourself
Mr.
to your
Batista?
remarks.
I'm just not sure. I want to respond. I want to mention his name, but I'm not sure what his title is.
Mr. Batista.
If you could tell me what his title is?
He's the interim director.
Interim director, Mr. Interim Director. I want you to know that I have tremendous respect for the entire staff, for you, your entire staff, And under the difficult conditions they've been working under for numerous years is remarkable they've been able to get any water out of those pipes. Councilwoman Anderson spoke about 2016. We know we spent over $1 million on professional engineers to study the water plant and our system at that time. And without going into great detail, the last sentence in their report, the city's report, said that our water system and transmission system is in cardiac arrest and need to be replaced. We've known this since 2016. This didn't happen overnight, as everyone said. This has happened for quite a while. I think our grants person is doing a great job, except that, as we all know, grants are maybe you'll get approved, maybe you won't get approved. You can't budget and bank upon grants. I've done this for many, many years, and I don't think that we could put our water system up for maybe we'll get the grant, maybe we won't. We should apply for it, obviously. I spoke with DEP, Shannon Spees Frost, who's in charge of the Drinking Water Revolving Loan Program. I spoke to her staff. They've received no applications from us. They referred to the $500,000 legislative grant we received when Mr. Horton was the administrator at the time, the director, the acting director, or director, whatever he was at that time. That was the only thing that they had received and approved through their office, through DEP. They said they're willing and able to work with us through the revolving loan program. The money is at a 0.5% interest right now. They would fund the entire plant, the design, everything at a 0.5% interest, 20-year loan, and 20% of that would be turned into a grant because of the median income of our city. I suggest that we get moving on planning and design. Their funds are available, and we can get these funds right away. So we should get into that process. We could have used this for the $10 million that we're just spending right now. We did not. We could have used it for the acquisition of the land. We did not. Clearly, unfortunately, it's not retroactive, so they will not fund anything that we've already done. But I do request that you contact these people and we start moving forward, and I wish us a lot of luck in the
Time has
grants.
expired.
Thank you all tonight.
Madam Chair, members of the board, that completes public comment.
Mr. Evans, do you have anything to say with regard to something that we might have missed out on?
Madam Chair, when we bring back the presentation with regards to the facilities, we'll bring all those particular mechanisms and funding opportunities to the board as part of the discussion.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk?
Resolution number 5-21 UD, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Riviera Beach, Utility Special District, Palm Beach County, Florida, approving an agreement with Underwater Solutions, Inc., Mattapoisett, Massachusetts, cooperative request for proposal RFP 184601, OQ, Orlando Utilities Commission for inspections and interior cleaning, sediment removal of storage tanks in the amount of $39,220, authorizing the Utility Special District Board Chairperson and District Clerk to execute the agreement, authorizing the City Manager to approve change orders up to 10%, and authorizing the District Finance Director to make payment from project number 21016 after work authorizations have been issued and providing an effective date. Madam Chair, members of the board, we do not have any public comments cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
Thank you. Would someone care to make a motion to approve Resolution 5-21 UD?
To approve.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to approve Resolution 5-21 UD. Madam Clerk? Do we have any discussion? Sorry, before we vote. Any discussion, or is there a presentation?
Madam Chair, if I can have Interim Director Jonathan Batista make the presentation.
Thank you.
For this item, this deals with the whole comprehensive program that's underway to clean out the water mains and the ground storage tanks. When it comes to this particular entity, we had this entity clean out the tanks in 2016, and it came to my knowledge recently that there's a regulatory requirement to have the tanks cleaned out every 5 years. And so that deadline is March 14th of this year. Therefore, normally I would prefer to go a competitive solicitation route if there are local entities that would wish to participate, but because we only have a few weeks to have this item completed, I recommend to the board to approve of this cooperative agreement so that we can meet the regulatory requirement.
Thank you. Any comments?
Yes.
Questions? You're
Mr.
recognized,
Batista,
Mr. McClure.
so this deadline and this requirement of doing it every 5 years, is that now going to be a function of the compliance person that you spoke of that's in the budget?
Yes, the compliance person would track that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Madam Clerk?
Board Member Lanier,
Yes.
Board Member McCoy,
Yes.
Board Member Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Pro Tem Lawson,
Yes.
Chair Botel.
Yes, that is
Unanimous
approved by a
vote.
vote of 5-0. Thank you.
Resolution number 6-21 UD, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Riviera Beach, Utility Special District, Palm Beach County, Florida, approving the emergency repairs by Global Tech, Inc., previously approved for design build services, authorizing the city manager to approve change orders up to 10%, and authorizing the Utility Special District Finance Director to make payment from project number 18154 in an amount not to exceed $222,028.69, and provide an effective date. Madam Chair, members of the board, there are no public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
Thank you. Would someone care to make a motion to approve the emergency repairs by Global Tech?
So moved.
It has been moved and seconded that we approve the emergency repairs by Global Tech. Do we have a presentation?
Madam Chair, if I can have Interim Executive Director Jonathan Batista make this presentation.
Thank you.
For this item, it was briefly covered in the presentation. To go into a little more detail, the water treatment plant has 7 high service pumps, 5 of which are inoperable. The 2 high service pumps that are currently functional are pumps that have variable frequency drives, so we can control the flow for each pump. However, if one of those pumps were to go down at this point, we have no redundancy, so therefore we would lose pressure throughout the system unless we open interconnects with our neighbors to essentially deliver the flow that's required for our customers. If both pumps were to go down, that would mean we would have no high service pumps and we would not be able to deliver water to anyone. And based on my current understanding of our interconnects, I don't believe we have enough capacity to meet demand if we had no high service pumps. Therefore, an evaluation was requested as soon as the situation was understood to find which pumps could be brought back into service as quickly as possible due to the emergency nature of this. So with that information, we discovered there were 2 pumps, high service pumps 2 and 5, that could be brought back rather quickly within a 4-week time frame. So we requested a proposal, and that is what I'm bringing before the board.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, it has been moved and seconded that we approve the emergency repairs to Global Tech. If you're in agreement, vote yes. If not, vote no. Madam Clerk?
Board Member McCoy,
Yes.
Board Member Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Lanier,
Yes.
Pro Tem Lawson,
Yes.
Chair Botel.
Yes, that motion is approved by unanimous vote.
Madam Chair, the agenda is, we're down to discussion and deliberation.
Right, discussion, deliberation, discussion by the Executive Director of the Utility Special District. Sorry, my telemarketer is calling.
Oh, the car one.
Telemarketer.
So where are we?
Mr. Evans,
No comments, Madam Chair.
thank you. So I can't shut him up. Thank you. Discussion by District Attorney.
I don't think
Yes, Madam Chair.
you're not talking in your mic.
I'm sorry, thank you. Go ahead.
Go ahead, thank you. I have an announcement of a closed executive session. Pursuant to Florida Statute 286.0118D, public meetings and records, and in a desire to obtain advice concerning litigation, I am requesting a time that the City Council is available for a closed executive session in the matter of Project McCoy versus City of Riviera Beach Utility District, case number 50-2020-CA-011228, 2021-XXXX-MB. There are two City Council meetings scheduled for March 3rd and March 17th, 2021. I would like to ask the council if you're available on either of those dates. What is your pleasure? Either Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. or Wednesday, March 17th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m.
Either one is fine with me.
I'm sorry, the first one? The third.
Madam Chair,
Yes, you're recognized.
so I'll be actually in Tallahassee with our lobbyists on the 3rd, so I wouldn't make that first meeting. But it appears that Board Member Lanier has some objections to me attending anyway, so.
So is March 17th your pleasure?
I think if,
Okay. Therefore, a closed executive session will be held on the 17th.
Wait.
Madam Attorney, one question. So is there an urgency to do it on the 3rd?
No, there isn't.
okay, so the 17th, and
Yes.
did you say a time?
5:30 p.m. I need to finish the statement, please.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. Therefore, a closed executive session will be held on the 17th day of March, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. at City of Riviera Beach Marina Event Center, 190 East 13th Street, Riviera Beach, Florida, 33404, in the case of Trodrick McCoy versus City of Riviera Beach Utility District. Again, case number 50-2020-CA-0112228-XXXX-MB. Those persons in attendance will be USD Attorney Dawn Nguyen, USD Assistant City Attorney Lina Busby, outside counsel Gwendolyn Key Tuggle, Mayor Felder, members of the USD Board, and USD Interim Director Jonathan Batista. The subject matter of the closed executive session shall be restricted to settlement negotiations and/or strategy sessions related to litigation expenditures. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question.
You're recognized.
So I read the charter. I didn't know it called for an assistant utility district director. Can you explain that?
It calls for the executive director.
I'm sorry, attorney. You said Ms. Busby. That's not listed in the charter as a.
It's the attorney for the office, and just in case I'm not available, she will be.
Okay.
It's allowed. Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because I didn't see that in the charter. Okay.
Thank you. Comments by District Board, starting with Mr. Lawson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Evans, one of the speakers spoke about, one of our residents, about the drinking water loan fund that the DEP has. Are we familiar with that, or have we ever applied for that?
I believe that loan may be the WIFIA loan program. We're aware of it. We had discussions with representatives in Washington, D.C. about it, and have had conversations with our lobbyist about it.
Okay, and is that something that we're able to bring all the details and information to the next meeting for?
That is something that we can certainly make sure is part of the discussion. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. McCoy?
Yes, Mr. Batista, so the point about the ability to pump, I know maybe a couple months back we had an issue out in Arbor Park. Well, on the way to the meeting, I got a call from a resident about low water pressure out in that community, and he's not in the previous Mediterranean, but in the new division that's being constructed, I believe, by whatever the developer is. But is that something that we can look into? Because I know that there was a question about there was valves closed, and I know we've seen this maybe late last year, maybe October or so, or November.
Yeah, within the last 2 weeks, there was numerous calls that came in. People were saying that they lost their water, and we found out that a contractor had closed a valve to do work on a curb stop. So that was a minor issue. When it comes to the lower pressures in Arbor Park and throughout the distribution system, the improvements to the high service pumps, as well as the other improvements throughout the treatment plant, should help with the pressure overall.
Okay, so has the valve closure been addressed with the contractor and the development team?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Is that it? Board Member Lanier?
Yes, I'd just like to thank the Utilities Department. I often say how hard they work, how much effort they put into making sure that the water quality in the city is standard, and also going above and beyond to make sure that we can get to the point where I remember back in the late 90s, 94, 95, 96, that Riviera Beach has some of the best water in the county. So I'm hoping that we get back to those days where people would want our water and you could actually bottle our water. So, and also piggybacking off of Commissioner Miller Anderson's point, this did not get this way overnight. The water plant, which was built in 1958, has been consistently neglected here in the city. So if we want to make sure that we have quality water, then we have to make sure that we put the money, the time, and the effort to bring our water plant up to par, and also to have it so that we can enjoy our drinking water here. So kudos and hats off to the Utilities Department, the staff, the people who work there, who work hard to keep things going. We really appreciate your efforts, and we're looking forward to a new water plant and to also, along the way, improve the water that we currently have. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Miller Anderson.
I just wanted to just reiterate the comment that I did make about this not happening overnight. And what I mean by that as well is that we had a number of city managers. We had several city managers during that time, and now we've had a number of utility districts. And I think Mr. Batista pointed all of that out, and that does factor into that. We received a report, and when we got that report told us of all the things that have been going on prior to that report coming out. And as he pointed out, what was done for the few years after that was almost kind of non-existent. There was a lot going on, and I'm sure the community is very well aware of all of the things that were going on at that time, which hinder progress. And as you can see, that is what has happened. But I do think that we have a plan, and our plan is pretty much laid out as to how this can get done. I'm pretty confident it'll get done, but I couldn't say that a couple of years back. So from where we were then and where we are now, it's totally different, and I look forward to being able to make sure that our residents have the quality of water that they have so desired and need. And, you know, it just needs to really stop with the foolishness. Put out the true facts of what is going on, and if people don't know the answers, please ask. And I will ask that those of you who are here or watching, please communicate with everyone what has been presented. If you still have questions, please contact staff, contact council people, the mayor, and ask us what is going on. But, you know, these scare tactics that are being put out there about the water needs to stop. And the reason I say it really needs to stop is because it doesn't make sense to scare people up unnecessarily. And believe me, I led the charge back in 2016 on making sure that everyone were held accountable. And that is why most of those people who were here then, and I'm not talking about council, I'm talking about staff, are not here. They've been gone for a while. So please allow us and see the progress that we are trying to make. We're trying to put forth the money to get the stuff done. That was not always done. And that is the fault of a number of people. Like, I'm not going to blame one group of people. It grows over decades. So I just ask that everyone try to, you know, really get the facts on what's going on. And if you don't have the facts, please ask. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I also want to thank you again, Mr. Batista, and just to say that I'm proud to be part of the team that's going to ensure that we have clean water in Riviera Beach. Any other comments? This meeting is adjourned. Let's start in 10 minutes. Is that good? 10 minutes good? 10 minutes?